Welcome back into another episode of Red Zone Talk. I am Owen Burke. That's Timothy Hunt. And this, my friends, just so happens to be our resident college football expert, Grant Falconio.
Hey, yeah, I'll take that. Anytime I can be called the resident college football expert, I will take the chance to stroke my ego and become that. So I want to appreciate you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Second time.
Absolutely. Second
Yeah,
time?
second
Our
time,
fir-
true.
our only guest we've ever had on this show, and the
Yes, sir.
only person to ever be on twice. So that's got
True.
to mean
Yeah,
something, right?
it
Like there's
means
got to be
something for
value in
sure.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely going to be in the Hall of Very Good one day at least.
at
Oh,
So,
least.
very good.
yeah, the whole intro, I was like, don't say his last name wrong. Don't say his last name wrong. I'm glad I got it. So,
Nailed it.
we
Nailed
got through it. So we are here for our official mock draft episode. We have got a ton of stuff to talk about. Don't want to waste a ton of time because we're going to do that once we get past the top 10 picks. So without any further ado, do we have any social medias you want to shout out? We're Red Zone Talk on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Red Zone Talk Pod on YouTube if you want to watch it. If you want to stare at these three ugly faces for the next hour and a half, feel free to head over to YouTube. You can see that there.
We're the
So-
same on TikTok too. So,
Red Zone Talk Pod on TikTok. Boom. There it
so
is.
kind of laying out the premises for this mock draft. This isn't a what we think will happen mock draft. This is what we would do. So we're gonna step in to the GM shoes here and pick what we think would happen. We're gonna alternate every 3 picks. So Grant's gonna have the first one. He's a Bears fan at heart, so we gave him pick 1. Owen is gonna be the second pick. I'm pick 3, being the Patriots fan. I can't hear anything that's coming off the soundboard still. I couldn't hear that intro at all. So
I can tell.
after the draft sound is played, you might have to kind of give me some kind of indication that I can say my pick because I won't be able to hear it for whatever reason. So
Fair enough.
without any more delays here, we can jump into it, and I'll play the first chime here.
All right, so with the Bears up at the first overall pick, they luck into the first overall pick, traded with the Panthers from last year, and somehow miraculously got the first overall pick again for 2 years in a row. They're running the ticket up there. It's Caleb Williams from USC. In my opinion, I think he's the best player in the draft. He's been just that guy for the 3 years that he's played. Came in against Texas, really solidified his name while he was still at Oklahoma, transfers to USC, wins the Heisman Trophy, has a little bit of a down year, his third year, lots of play there, rough defense, rough offensive line, but man, Caleb Williams is quite the player. He really can make every throw. He's mobile. His decision-making is unparalleled. He can make plays happen like Mahomes. He's just got everything, and the Bears lucking into him at pick 1. The Justin Fields trial didn't go as well as they had intended. If they gave him the tools to do it, you'd be the one to argue that to me. But yeah, they're able to get Caleb Williams after having Justin Fields, making a significant upgrade to that position. It's easy. It's Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think with Caleb Williams is like on that tier. Owen and I've talked about it a lot, right? He's on the tier with Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, trying to think who before that, probably Peyton Manning, right? Like it's probably a pretty elite class of guys of that. Like people were like, hey, this guy's pretty much for sure a first overall pick. Yeah, I guess Peyton Manning, there's a little bit of debate in that draft class, but irregardless, like definitely has the pedigree of being a great player. I think the best way I've heard him described is he is above average in all 5 key categories of being a quarterback, right? Like pocket presence, decision making, the ability to move, the ability to make plays outside the pocket, the ability to extend plays, right? So just a really unique player. And there's going to be growing pains, right? Like I don't know if he is the most, Trevor Lawrence started 3 years, played big time college football, and kind of came out and was what we expected a rookie Trevor Lawrence to look like, right? Like there were still some growing pains there, right? I mean, partially Urban Meyer's fault, but I think anytime you make that step into the next level, there's going to be some pains there. So, but I do think Caleb Williams is the right move and is the best player in this draft as well.
Yeah. Definitely an unpassable prospect. I'll say that if Caleb Williams doesn't get it done. I don't know if the Bears are ever destined to have a guy throw for more than 4,000 yards.
For sure. I'd agree.
Because like you said, all those guys that have came in through the top of the classes, your Lucks and your Trevor Lawrence and everything, the Bears have never lucked into that guy, right? Like there's the best quarterback in franchise history is Jay Cutler. Like,
yeah, I mean, you could take your shot
Jim
with
McMahon.
Rex Grossman. Yeah, Jim McMahon.
Yeah, Jim McMahon back in the day.
Yeah.
Like,
but the list is not very long, and it's
No.
not a very
Yeah,
prestigious list.
it's not an uber talented list. So if Caleb Williams isn't the guy, I don't know who is for Chicago, but it's definitely not one of the other quarterbacks in this class. I can definitely tell you that.
And if we're talking about teams with the first overall pick, right? Like this team won 7 games last year.
Yep.
And then they did nothing but add talent in the offseason, right? You add DeAndre Swift, you go and get Keenan Allen. Like that wide receiver core is deadly now. Like you talk about DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, and then DeAndre Swift. That's a really good top 4 key starters for that offense. So the only thing that's in question is the coaching staff, right? Like a lot of people, I would have fired Eberflus after this offseason.
Into the sun.
So this is he is the biggest. He's the biggest what if in this scenario if Caleb Williams works out. So
yeah, if the Montez Sweat trade didn't work out as well as it did, he probably would have got canned. But that defense just played.
Yeah.
That defense played out of its mind in the second 8 weeks last year.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, what they were able to do with adding those 2 linebackers, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds last year, I mean, it paid dividends for them. They were able to completely rebuild the scheme and run it through those 2 guys. TJ Edwards, I mean, was in the top 5 in tackles all year. He was unbelievable for them. So they were just they really made significant improvements on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, the offensive side left something to be desired, and that's why they're taking Caleb Williams there at 1.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see here. All right, Owen, are you ready for the second overall pick with the Commanders?
About as ready as I'll ever be, my friend.
All right.
All right, so with the second overall pick, the Washington Commanders are going to be taking... I messed up my copy-paste. It's Drake May from UNC for the folks at home. I had a lot of... This is honestly like I spent a lot of the day just trying to get as much film in as possible, especially when it came to this decision here, because it's the most important one. And I think it's the hardest one of the draft is who's the next guy off the board after Caleb Williams. And I like Michael Penix a lot. I really was kind of leaning that way before I started.
Thank God. I was so nervous you were going to take him. I was like, going into last night before I went to sleep, I was like, God, is Owen going to take Michael Penix with a second pick? And then I'm going to have to literally roast him for like 3 minutes about why that's a terrible decision.
So again, going in and doing all the research for it and everything, I think Drake May is just too good of a prospect to pass up on. I think the ceiling is higher. I understand where the Justin Herbert comparisons come from. Again, a guy that had a down year while losing some talent around him at North Carolina. But the arm talent is there. He's a big body guy. He's mobile behind the line of scrimmage and can run when he needs to. There's a couple draws where he got a second and 15. He's picking up a first down. So not going to blow you away with the legs, but is a talented playmaker. I'm curious to see the rhythm and timing stuff. There was a couple times where it just didn't look like he was in sync with his receivers at times. Now you button that part up and, going into the Commanders with Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson's still there. They have Ertz now, and they bring in Eckler as a run game too. So, I mean, you want to talk about pairing, Justin Herbert comparison quarterback. Well, here's his running back from the last 5 years. You're just going to throw him into the backfield there in Washington. So, as much as I like Penix, I really soured on Daniels throughout the process because I thought I was going to be the predictable to take Daniels at 2. But the more I watched and thought about it, the more I just didn't like it. And Drake May is the guy at pick 2.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, I think Drake May has a higher ceiling, and I think a higher floor even too. If things don't really get it done with Drake May, I still think that just his intangibles and his build lends itself to the NFL a little bit more than Jaden Daniels does. I think that he's certainly capable of making every single throw. His decision making, especially against Miami, feel a little sore spot in those runs you were talking about that he would pull off on third and forever, fourth and forever were against Miami, and so I have firsthand experience with all that. He's a hell of a player. I mean, 2-year starter. Just really, really impressive stuff from him. I'm really looking forward to see how he translates into the NFL, because I think it's going to be a slower process for him, being that it's going to, like it takes anybody, especially if he's going to go to the Commanders. I think it's going to take him a minute to understand what he can and can't do, especially with running the ball. I think that it's certainly a threat of his, but trying to figure out how his body lends itself to the NFL is going to be something important. But he's a heck of a quarterback and could be definitely up there in that first tier of quarterbacks.
His play style is very similar to a Justin Herbert, but I think developmental wise, he's closer to a Josh Allen, right? Of what we're going to need to see. His offensive coordinator, his first couple of years is going to be vital for him, right? He's more moldable than a lot of these complete pieces. So the way he's coached and the way he's trained is going to be super, super important for him, right? He isn't necessary. Like, I think he's a first overall pick in a lot of drafts, right? Like, if there's no 100%. Caleb Williams, I think he's a first overall pick. You look at the Kenny Pickett year, he's probably a first overall pick in that class.
Certainly.
Last year, he's probably, he might have been above CJ Stroud. Like, I think there's a real argument for him being first or maybe above Stroud. So the talent is definitely there with a guy like Drake May. It's just the question of, what is it going to look like, at the NFL level? And
can it develop,
right? He also is coming into a situation that you like, right? Terry McLaurin is an underrated wide receiver one, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's a top tier guy. He's probably not a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL right now, but he is definitely a wide receiver one, right? Like, he has had the most inconsistent quarterback play, maybe out of any wide receiver we've seen put up his kind of numbers, right? Between Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke,
Jacoby Brissett
was in there, right? Like, just guys all over the board that you're like, man, I don't know what's happening here. So, just a really interesting case, I think, for him. So,
I think it's certainly possible that he could end up being the best quarterback in this draft class too. I think it's certainly possible.
It's very possible. I think you hit the nail on the head. Herbert comparisons, but is more towards Allen as far as, like, that's how much you're going to have to develop him. Josh Allen wasn't a pretty prospect coming out, but all the ceiling stuff was there. So I think Herbert on a low end, it'll work.
Yeah, it'll all come together here. All right. Well, with the next pick here, the New England Patriots are going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. here. They're gonna bypass the quarterback position. It's obviously a big need, right? But from a team building standpoint, if we really want to sit down and try to evaluate it, there's nothing on this offense, right? There's been a lot of talk of, like, well, who's their best weapon? It is by far and away Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne, when healthy last year, looked good, but on his high end, Kendrick Bourne is still a wide receiver 2. He is nowhere near a wide receiver 1. I like Bourne a lot. Like, I think he has talent. He gets hurt all the time. And from a team building standpoint, there's no sense in reaching, in my opinion, to take a Jaden Daniels here, or a Michael Penix, or a Bo Nix, or a JJ McCarthy, because they're going to have nobody to throw to, right? And we are the king of having mid-tier running backs. So Ramondre Stevens, running back that I like, but is kind of a middle of the tier guy. We let Zeke Elliott go, and then we're like, who we got to go get? We got to go get Antonio Gibson. That was the biggest weapon we signed this offseason. And, we kept a lot of the same guys around. As much as I like Hunter Henry, I think he's a solid tight end. We keep paying the guy, for whatever reason. He's still here. He's here, So I don't think it makes any sense to try to grab a quarterback now. I would much rather wait until the second round and take the 6th best quarterback available. Maybe it ends up being the 7th best. I don't see 6 guys going in the first in reality, but
I don't know if I fully agree with, like, not wanting to reach here, but when we're talking about arguably the greatest receiver prospect of my lifetime, this guy was a certified number 1 overall receiver last year. They were like, well, here's who's getting drafted this year. We all know who's number 1 next year. Like, this is a generational type playmaker. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is the type of guy that if he turns out to be a bust at the NFL level, we're all idiots. And this is all a guessing game, and there's no work behind it because there is no hole here. There's no reason that Marvin Harrison should not be the guy at the NFL level. He's going to be the best weapon for the Patriots since Randy Moss was there. And, I mean, I also would love if
Julian Edelman was pretty solid.
Julian Edelman. I hope Antonio Gibson could just pop and be that next like random Shane Vereen type running back for you guys and just figures it out. But yeah, I like the pick with Marv here. Like, I don't know if I would do it for Bowers or Neighbors or Rome, but like for Marvin Harrison Jr., I am perfectly okay with this decision.
Yeah, it's not a reach when it's Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, you see that guy, and he's 6'4". He makes every catch. It doesn't matter if he's running a fly or if he's running a curl. He's open regardless. Just throw him the ball. I mean, if he gets stacked on a route, I'm still confident that he could catch the ball wherever you throw it to him. You just give the guy a chance. And if you can give that to a quarterback, let's say it's Bailey Zappi next year, or after that, you want to decide to draft a quarterback the year after that. Let's say it's Quinn Ewers or somebody else. You have that opportunity, but you're going to plug and play a Pro Bowl receiver instantly. And that's something that's just not worth passing up, especially how premium that position has become in the NFL.
And Owen, you said you disagreed with me a little bit here, but the biggest thing this team is missing is the keystone pieces. There is no offensive weapon. There is no solid left tackle. And you're talking about a really, really young coaching staff now, right? Gerard Mayo is going to be in his first year. I really like bringing Alex Van Pelt? Is that his name?
Yeah.
The Browns OC over, right? I think he's a solid OC. But what's the point of reaching and taking a Jaden Daniels here and just ruining him, right? Like, he's got no real chance of any production, right? Like, those, like, when we talk about the Bears and the Commanders, at least you could say, hey, there's a chance this team makes a big leap next year with these guys, right? Like, they've got people in place. This team, there's no the quarterback isn't just it's all fixed, like, it would need to be a quarterback, a hit in the second, a hit in the third, and probably a hit somewhere else in the remainder of the draft, and maybe that team is fighting for a middle position in the division, right?
Yeah.
The Bills, I mean, they lose Stephon Diggs, but they're still a really solid team. Miami's still a really good team. And honestly, if we're looking at the New York Jets right now, they look like a better team than the New England Patriots, right? So you have the fourth most talent in your division. It's not the time to go out and just reach for a guy, try to put a guy on a roster. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next pick here.
All right. With the fourth pick, the Arizona Cardinals are going to take Malik Neighbors. So they miss out on Marvin Harrison in this draft. I think that's how the chips will fall. In real life, I think they'll end up getting Marvin Harrison. But here, I think they're going to get Malik Neighbors. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. Really came into his own this year. Was an All-American, led the nation in receiving yards. Just absolutely tore it up this year under Jaden Daniels, and his Heisman season was a main proponent of why that even came to pass. He's another just solid, lanky guy. He really can run any route, gets a lot of separation, strong hands, a little bit of focus problems at times. I saw him against Florida State. I believe it was his sophomore year, week one, when LSU ended up losing that game on a blocked field goal, which was brutal. But he just had a couple of spacey drops that, you'd like to see somebody come down with. But I don't think overall that really affects him much as a player. I think as long as he gets an opportunity and, he's out there, I think he's going to become a really, really great wide receiver.
For you, Grant, where is the gap between like Marv, Neighbors, and then I'm assuming you have Dunze as your third guy. What's that gap talent wise look like for you?
Yeah, well, I think my actual list would probably be Marvin at 1, Rome at 2, and then Neighbors at 3. I think at least how the Cardinals offense lends itself, I think they would probably rather opt for a player like Neighbors than a Dunze. I think a Dunze is more of a big body type of receiver, a true X. I think Neighbors has a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things for him. I think them losing Marquise Brown is a bigger deal than people are really wanting to acknowledge. Yeah. I think Kyler needs that kind of raw athleticism on the outside. Yeah. And I think Neighbors would definitely fill that in for him.
I was a little surprised by your pick because I have Dunze as my 2, as well. So when
Good.
you went Neighbors, I was like, man, really? I wasn't sure if maybe you're like everybody else who's like falling in love with the speed. That
Yeah, I mean,
happens every year with one
yeah.
wide receiver where we're like, well, he's really fast. Like he's really, really fast. And it's like,
But
That's why I
yeah,
think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Xavier Worthy. I think this is the exact same case, just in a different type of body. I think Xavier Worthy's college highlight tape is certainly more impressive than
yeah,
Malik Neighbors. I mean, he had a streak with, I think, 7 games in a row with a receiving touchdown, Xavier Worthy. So it'll be interesting to see how much the NFL really does fall in love with that. I could definitely see Roma Dunze being the second receiver taken off the board. And I think that, like, if it plays out how I think it will, where Harrison goes at 4, I think it's easy that Dunze could go to 5 at
5.
in Los Angeles. So, yeah, I think that obviously the receiver class is loaded this year,
that it
loaded.
is.
So, I mean,
That it is.
anybody that's missing out on one of these top tier guys isn't really shooting themselves too bad. They could still end up getting Jermaine Burton in the 3rd round. They could get Malachi Corley 3rd through 5th, somewhere in there. I mean, he may even go to the 2nd. I mean, hell, it's interesting to see how the NFL values these guys, especially how deep this class is this year.
Yeah. The other interesting part for Neighbors, for me at least, is he's one of these guys where if you want to play the ceiling floor game, right? The ceiling is Tyreek Hill, right? Like he is that level. Like I'm not saying he's as fast, but he's got that type of skill set, I think. But the only issue I have is floor is like the guy who left Arizona, right? It's Marquise
Marquise
Brown,
Brown. Yeah.
where you're just like, this guy is good for 60 catches and 5 really great plays every year, and he kind of disappears when we need him most, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing that scares me a little bit about Neighbors. That's my biggest hesitation, is like he's not the kind of guy where it's like, all right, it's playoffs. We need, it's 3rd and 8, and we just need a guy to be open. I'm not sure he's that level of guy. Owen, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, sorry.
We're all kind of waiting for you. We've been cutting you
lost
off
in
this
my-
whole time.
Got lost in my sheet there. No, I agree. Like, I think it is going to come down to fit for Arizona. And I think Odunze can fill that role, but he's not going to have, like Grant said, not going to have the versatility to probably play the slot a ton where you can move Neighbors around a little bit more. And I think that even my next pick, the Chargers pick, is going to be a little upset because I think Neighbors really fits well there as well. But I'll talk about that in a sec.
All right.
So with the next pick, the 5th pick, the Chargers, I have them taking Rome Odunze here. I'm not going to overthink this. I hate where the Chargers have put themselves at as far as this pick goes, because I felt like their offensive line is in serious need of help here. They could get themselves the best tackle in the class here, whoever they think it is, whether you think it's Alt or not. But they legitimately have no one to throw the ball to right now. I mean, it is Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, and guys that shouldn't be catching the ball on Sundays. So it's a really tough spot that the Chargers put themselves in here, but I think that you have to have somebody for Justin Herbert to throw the ball to, and there is no super attractive name as far as free agency goes. Yes, the class is deep, but I mean, to me, this is a guy that needs a 1. I don't know if Quentin Johnston's going to be it at this point. I really want to go tackle here, but I just feel like they want to build a run game for Greg Roman, but like there's no way we're investing in Gus Edwards and Greg Roman over Justin Herbert at pick 5. So
this is, in my opinion, this would be the worst case scenario for Roma Duze, right? Like if I am going to the Chargers, I'm like so upset because if Greg Roman is really good at one thing, it's underutilizing great wide receiver talent.
Yep.
And so he's sitting there, he's like, damn, I'm just going to block in the run game for 40, like half my snaps here.
You're a 6'4" blocker.
Perfect.
I don't know if that's how Jim Harbaugh is going to want to build his team. I'd be interested, like, right, if Romo is available. I keep calling him Romo. I don't know why I do that, but if he's there, like Harbaugh saw him, right? Like he saw him in a national championship game.
Right there.
Yeah.
So if someone's going to have a really good feel of what he's going to be like as an NFL player, it's Jim Harbaugh. So I would be kind of intrigued to kind of see what happens here. I like Dunze as a player. I think he is one of those guys that in today's NFL, where you truly need a wide receiver one that can do a lot of things, he gets compared a lot to Mike Evans, and I don't know if that's fair to Mike Evans, because Mike Evans is just Mr. Consistent, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's crab legs Jameis throwing him the ball, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Baker Mayfield, the dude just produces.
Yeah.
I do like. There's a lot of aspects that like I feel like Dunze is better across the field, right? Like he is a guy that he's going to have that deep ball element available to him, but he's also going to be able to run the ins, the crosses, and just have some open plays. So.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things within that offense. He can take the top off. He can sit right in front of a zone on third down and catch the ball consistently. He's an option that will be open frequently. And I think that his skill set certainly lends itself to the Chargers offense if they're going to do what, Justin Herbert's used to doing. Like, I think if he plays that same type of Keenan Allen and even Mike Evans type or Mike Williams type role, I think that he could certainly do that and be really, really successful at it. I think even with the big body Quentin Johnson over there, I know he had a rough go of it last year, but I think it's certainly possible for him to turn it around and this to become, Justin Herbert might be almost the shortest guy out there, even at receiver. If he was out there with the receivers, he might be the shortest guy out there. So I think if you're building like Michigan does, where Harbaugh came from, they just want the biggest, strongest, most athletic guys out there. And it's, like a recruiting game at that point. I think that if they were able to, build that room with big-bodied guys like Adunze, I think it would be really interesting for them to move forward with that.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's one of the tougher picks to decide here because how the receivers play out. Is Bowers an option at 5? And again, I do think the O-line is severely still needs help, and you have your pick of the litter at 5 as well. So I think this is one of the harder decisions in the draft, just because with their cap casualties, they've opened up 2 really big positions of need, and they kind of have their pick of the litter, but you can only get one. You can't get both. So
yeah.
All right. Let's run this next pick here. Okay, Giants sprint this one in. Joe Alt's here. You take Joe Alt. The Evan Neal experience has been subpar, to say the least, I would say. Yep. I thought Evan Neal was going to be a heck of a lot better than he's been. He's just been bad.
I was wrong.
Joe Alt through he was a 3-year starter at Notre Dame. Dude has 4 penalties in 3 years of starting for Notre Dame. Like
at tackle.
Just at tackle, which is just insane, right? Like, and the competition, I mean, he plays a lot of ACC football, so the competition isn't necessarily the most elite that you're ever going to see, but I think he is the surefire. He's the Joe Thomas of this draft, right? We're going to look back at this and be like, man, why did that guy fall that far when he's like a clear-cut number 1 tackle for a long time to come? I think it's that simple, right? Like if there was a weapon available, if I'm the Giants, I'm probably going for it. I think about Jaden Daniels, but I don't know if he's a difference maker on this team anymore. Again, the Giants probably need to stink again this year and just take a quarterback next year is probably if I'm the GM, that's my game plan, right? I'm taking either the best tackle or the best weapon available. We'll just stink for another year with Danny Dimes in there. Let him run for 60 yards randomly on Monday Night Football, and then we'll kind of figure it out from there. Yeah, exactly.
Trip on his own shoelace and right out of the starting job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fire Brian Daboll because we blame him for our terrible management of the team.
And then he lands back to New England.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. I think that one's pretty simple for me.
Yeah, I think Alt is the best tackle in this class to me. And again, I severely thought about it at 5, but again, am I going to build for Gus or am I building for Justin? So again, you bring in Alt here, and again, like you said, Tim, there's not a quarterback here that you're in love with. Then build for the next guy, right? It doesn't mean go defense. There's no need to go Dallas Turner here. You've spent your investment on defense. You have Brian Burns now stacked next to Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. Build for whoever the quarterback is going forward. Get the Penny Sewell of this class. I think Joe Alt is going to be a monster. And another guy that if I'm wrong, then this shit is just guesswork.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it pretty much is. I mean, if Joe Alt goes out there like 6'7" almost,
Yeah.
Big guy.
If he goes out there and stinks it up after having the college seasons that he did and playing against the defenses that he did, I don't think that it's possible for anybody to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting having him there in New York. I think, like a lot of you guys have said already, I think that pretty much you're just wasting your time until Danny Dimes is out of there. I think you tied your ship to Danny Dimes with that contract. It's pretty much just a waiting game until you can get him out the door. So, like you said,
is the last year of that deal. I'm pretty sure. I think
Is
they
it?
can cut him with very little penalty after this
Okay,
year.
perfect.
So.
Yeah, so then that perfectly plays into what we're trying to do. You can either take Jaden Daniels here in this case, or if you really like JJ McCarthy and he's still there, I mean, you can jump at him. But I think what the smart play is to play Joe Alt here and see if you can get that upper echelon of guys next year. And if Danny Dimes decides that he wants to be a good quarterback next year, perfect. Go ahead and extend him. But it gives you the flexibility and the cornerstone tackle in Joe Alt to really push for something next year.
All right, cool. Let's go.
All right. I think Tennessee at pick 7 is going to take Brock Bowers. I think you've got the most toolsy guy in the draft. I think you can plug and play this dude at receiver and he'll have success. I think you can make him as a true blocking tight end and he'll have success there as well. I think that there's not much that he can't do. I mean, he at Georgia just pretty much did everything for him. He was taking snaps out of the backfield. You know, he'd take handoffs out of the backfield. He'd run tight end into rounds that I used to run when I was in 3rd grade. I mean, he was doing everything for him, and he did it at a very, very high level. I think you're able to add a not necessarily wide receiver, but a skill position player. I think the NFL's become way more positionless than it had been 10, 15 years ago, where you've got guys on defense, especially just playing out of position where they would have no business being 10, 15 years ago. And you can kind of do that now on offense with a guy like Brock Bowers and have the flexibility to do tons and tons of different stuff with him. It'll give Will Levis a safety net, that he can work with beside DeAndre Hopkins to really, try to stretch the field and with Hopkins make throws down the field. And you've got, Bowers underneath and making it happen like a Cole Kmet would.
Calvin Ridley's there too. Let's not undersell the $100 million man, Calvin Ridley. Okay, maybe the most overpaid wide receiver 2 in the entire NFL. So, the fact we've dogged on it this much, Owen and I have talked about it. We hated the Christian Kirk deal a couple years ago, and Christian Kirk has been well worth that money and then some. So, but yeah, no, I think. The way I've been describing Brock Bowers to a lot of people, he's Dalton Kincaid if Dalton Kincaid was really talented. And like I love Dalton Kincaid. Like I am the biggest Dalton Kincaid believer out there. But like Brock Bowers is like he's Dalton Kincaid's Walmart and Brock Bowers is like Michael K's. I don't know an expensive grocery store. I'm poor. I don't shop at any of them. But he's Trader Joe's. Yeah, exactly. Like he is the high end version of exactly what Dalton Kincaid is. He's going to be a guy that, if you want to play him at tight end, you can play him in a split position. He's Travis Kelce. Like that's a carbon copy of the style of ball that he's going to play. So I like the pick. I think it's a good focus. With their head coach, I mean, you got to give him it's super easy to be the offensive coordinator of the Bucs when you've got ungodly amounts of talent. You might as well try to recreate that here in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's not about thinking about Brock Bowers as a tight end. It's more about thinking of him as a weapon. So what he's able to do at the next level is really going to be dependent on how free and flow his offensive coordinator is going to be. I'm curious to see if Brian Callahan coming over from Cincinnati is going to play that free and open, because if you just play this guy, is it Callahan from Cincinnati that's on?
No, he's from Tampa Bay. No, I'm getting him mixed up with the Carolina coach. You're right.
The Carolina coach. That's what
he is from Cincinnati. You're right.
Okay.
Right.
So I mean, if he can get creative and not pull a, I was going to take a swipe at Falcons old coach, and I can't remember his name. Arthur Smith. You could not be Arthur Smith and just use the weapons that you have, then Brock Bowers in Tennessee would be beautiful. But obviously that remains to be seen. So
yeah, TBD.
All right, we are on a horrendous pace. Just so the viewers at home, and so I can get
Yeah,
the message
I
across.
see that.
It's 35 minutes. We like talking ball. We're 8 picks in. We are gonna
Dang.
have to speed this up. Like, yeah, time flies when you're just sitting here talking about football, and then you'll be like, yeah, we got to try to get the remaining 24 picks in an hour. So,
I told you this is
um,
going to happen.
it always happens. So, I mean, if it's 2 hours, it's okay. If it's a 2 hour long mock track, I can live with that. We're still not on pace to do that really either. So, I'll try to
Speed her
keep
up.
us.
Try to
Yeah,
provide less insight, guys. Yeah.
yeah. Hey, try not to be so smart and say good stuff. Okay, just keep your yappers shut and go. Good pick, clap, and
Move
then
on.
move
Smile and
along.
wave and move
Smile and
on.
wave. Damn it. All right, with the next pick here.
All right, I have the Atlanta Falcons at pick 8. I have them taking the edge rusher Dallas Turner out of Alabama here. I really, really like Terrion Arnold as well here at this pick, and you stack him next to AJ Terrell out there. But I think there are still some options at corner that you could kind of fill in, get yourself the best edge rusher in the class, because I mean Atlanta's been looking for that star edge rusher since like 2016, and we thought it was going to be what's his name?
Are you talking about?
Fowler.
Dante
Dante
Fowler.
Fowler.
Dante. I wanted to say Dexter Fowler, so that's not right. Dante Fowler. Yeah, they've been searching for the edge rush help for a while. Hopefully, Dallas Turner is the answer. They've got Grady Jarrett on the inside. He's been playing a little in too, but they've got a good interior to that defense and a good secondary. They need to be able to get after the quarterback, and Dallas Turner is the top guy this year.
Yeah, I don't think that it's a bad thing taking the South Florida edge rusher who came from Alabama. I think that's pretty much just a plug and play every year top 10 type of thing that's going to happen for the foreseeable future. I think that it's an obvious pick. You know, you've got a guy who has seen everything, was coached under Nick Saban, seen every defense, was coached by the greatest to ever do it in Nick Saban. I think that it's easy to plug and play a guy like Dallas Turner, especially with his elite skill set.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good fit. I think it makes sense. It's pretty simple, right? Like he's probably the best defensive player that's out there. As the person who has to pick next for the Bears, it really sucks because that's kind of who we were hoping for. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. So
that is, it really do be like that sometimes.
Really do. All right. Okay. With the 9th overall pick here, the Bears are going to take Latu. Is that how you say it? Is it Latu? How do you know how to say it? Yeah.
Latu Latu. That's how I know.
Yeah. A little bit more of a physical specimen. There was times where you look at him and you go, yeah, that guy's really, really, really special. He reminds me a lot of that Javion Clowney profile. Maybe not as like explosive as a dominant athlete, but just at times you're like, he disappears and, there's questions on the motor and the willingness to make the play, but I still like him a lot. I think the upside is there with him. I think he's a guy that, alongside, I love these kind of guys in this kind of situation, right? You have Montez Sweat there. He's not going to have to go out and hey, we need you to go out and get 20 sacks this year, right? Like he's not going to be asked to do that. He's not going to get the double teams, right? The double teams are probably going to the inside there. So he's going to have a lot of opportunity. And that's really the place you want to take a guy like this. So
yeah, for sure. I honestly think this is probably going to be the pick for Chicago. I honestly don't think that even if Dallas Turner's available, that they won't take Latu, especially given if Adunze and Neighbors are both gone at 9. My honest to God opinion thinks if the Bears stick, they'll take Latu here, just with the skill set. And Poles loves the random athletic score, and Latu graded very, very highly on that. So it would be great to see them add another elite skills or elite physical build on the other side of Montez Sweat, especially given how much production he had last year and in the system in a short amount of time. It completely turned over that defense. So I think Latu would be another guy that could just open up a lot of opportunities for that defense, especially given that he would be at some point hopefully drawing double teams and you're able to run those rushing lanes and let Edmonds and Edwards just go to work.
How do you feel like, how would you have felt about a corner here? I debated it. I just don't think the value, like, I don't know if I love any of these corners as top 10 corners.
I think that Ryan Poles is perfectly content on drafting a corner in the later rounds. He took Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami last year, and he had way more success than I saw him have at Miami. He certainly had the physicality and the skill set to do it, but he was able to get the most out of Tyreek Stevenson in 1 year, or at least the Bears were. And I think that he's not going to want to opt for a corner at this position here, given that, it'd be probably better for us to pair Latu with Montez Sweat and kind of run it that way instead of having, you've got two corners on the outside with Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson. I think at that point you can just fill in the slot and third corner type of guys.
And I think Jalen Johnson is a true one corner.
100%.
Right? So I don't think the need is necessarily high for another corner as much it is. Edge rushers are just like, they maintain their value so well. You can never have enough of them. Where corner, I don't know, because corners get pricey and they have wavy years. They have really good years and then they have really bad years, right? Mm-hmm. So I would rather go after the edge there.
I agree.
I think you guys are on the money. I'm not going to waste any time. So
cool.
All right, with the 10th pick, I think the Jets will take A.D. Mitchell. I think you've got a guy who was pulling lots of attention at Texas and really has a big body that can go get a lot of different plays done for the Jets. I think it'll pull a lot of attention given his physical skill set away from Garrett Wilson. I think that would be important for Aaron Rodgers next year. The fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to get a top 10 wide receiver is insane to me. It feels like that guy never stops getting just the nastiest weapons, especially given that at least the hype for Aaron Rodgers there in New York was just crazy. And to pair him, A.D. Mitchell, with Garrett Wilson, I think is a no-brainer.
Yeah, he's definitely more of an upside guy. But in the situation with the Jets, I think I like the fit a lot. You're not going to go out and ask him like, hey, you don't have to go out and catch 70 balls here, right? Like you're going to get to kind of be that piece, more than anything there. Owen, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's a lot higher than I thought that any of us would have him going, to be honest with you. I was kind of waiting to see who that next receiver is going to be off the board. I don't think it's a terrible idea, because not only are you building for Aaron Rodgers this year, trying to make that push, you're building for the future as well, right? Aaron Rodgers is not going to be around forever. I would assume that the Jets are going to have a new quarterback throwing to Garrett Wilson and A.D. Mitchell before Mitchell's rookie contract is up. Oh, so sure. Building for the future, the O-line they've already put a lot of work into and they have invested quite a bit into it. Now, if they can just keep the two stars that they drafted there healthy, that would be really helpful for them. But add to the receiver core, it's a no-brainer. This is another team that I think would kind of look at Bowers if he was there. If Bowers is here at 10, slam the door on that pick. I think you give Aaron Rodgers a weapon like that, and it's over. But obviously he's not here.
Why did you go wide receiver over a tackle? Do you feel good about the tackle spot?
I think that honestly, yes, Aaron Rodgers played 3 or 4 snaps last year and tore his Achilles because it was 4 snaps.
4.
Here's his Achilles because there was pressure on him for every single snap. It felt surreal how much pressure was on him, and then he was gone like that. So I certainly understand that you want to protect the investment with the tackle, but I think you're able to hopefully figure out that position, but you still want to look forward and with a guy like A.D. Mitchell, who I'm really high on. Like Owen said, you were waiting to see where he came. I think he's really, really high. Yeah, there you go. You're just wanting him there.
I wish, yeah.
A.D. Mitchell is going to be a guy in the league. I think he's going to certainly come in and make a lot of impact. And I think that if the Jets had the opportunity to take him, I think that they should.
I think the guy that I like for the Jets in the real draft, I'd love to see him trade down and then end up with Troy. I'm going to forget his name.
Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin, Oregon.
No, not Troy Franklin. Fat Now.
The tackle.
Falconio?
Yeah, Falconio, because he's a guy that can go play inside, and then eventually when Tyron Smith, when he gets hurt, they can kick him back to the outside, right? So he's going to be a guy that is going to be able to play a little bit of both for him. Like, you're going to get value out of him. Week 1, he's your starter as your guard, and then in week 6, when Tyron Smith is hurt, you just kick him back out to tackle. So probably have him play right tackle over left, but
yeah, I mean, if they could trade down and keep like either 2 later first to take like Graham Barton, who has a lot of flexibility on the inside of the line, plus then you could still get one of those other receivers, whether it's Troy Franklin, whoever it is at the end of the round, that'd be perfect. But I do agree, like the tackle, because now they have Tyron Smith, Mekhi Becton, and Elijah Vera Tucker, who have all had their injury issues. So perfectly healthy, it's probably a top 15, top 10 line in the game. But
again, that's an if. Yeah.
It's a very big if. We're still waiting on him to sign Bakhtiari at this point. So,
and I still, it's just going to happen. I still, like, from a team building standpoint, I would rather get, like, because I think the tackles that are available are good, and you'll still have value in that middle of the second round at the wide receiver position, right? Like, there's going to be a guy in the second round who ends up being a wide receiver 1, right? There's just so much wide receiver depth in this draft that, looking at, I'm like, man, we could probably hold off on the wide receiver and maybe, grab the tackle now. But I mean, that's just how I view the world. So
I don't think it's a bad thought at all.
All righty. All right, Owen, you ready for your next one?
I'm ready. So, pick 11, the Minnesota Vikings. So this is probably one of the easier picks. It's just about nailing down who you want it to be in the long run. I am notoriously not as high on JJ McCarthy as most. I just realized that Jaden Daniels is still sitting here on our board at this point. And that threw a wrench into everything that I had planned to say. Shit. I think, man, I don't like it. I don't. I think the Vikings go Michael Penix here at 11. Now,
wow.
I know that that's a shocker, but I have extremely soured upon Jaden Daniels in the film watching process. He was a guy that originally, like, just eating everything the media feeds you. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty solid. Starting to watch a lot of film on it, and the thing that bothers me the most is the run style and the hits that he takes. Like, I've seen that guy get these sonic coins knocked out of him on 5 separate occasions, and we talk about that all the time at the NFL level. Like, Josh Allen is still able to remain durable. Anthony Richardson had his issues this year, but at least he's kind of built bigger on that side. Like, he's like watching Lamar Jackson try to run through people like he was Josh Allen. It's just not. I don't want to watch my franchise quarterback go through this. And as far as the throws go, he has the ability to make plays. I think his decision making, like, I'm curious to see what the decision making looks like at the next level. I think he can get his progressions is where I have the issues. Like, I think he can make the right throws, but sometimes he's a little slower. He's a hair fast through his progressions, and it throws his timing off. But as far as I haven't even talked about Penix yet going here, but as far as Penix goes, I love it. The only thing that worries me is the injuries as far as Penix goes. I think this guy can make every throw. I think he can put the ball down the field. I think he's going to be fine in rhythm and timing. Like, truly, outside of having that spectacular ability to create, and it's not that he can't create, it's just he's not Caleb Williams and he's not Drake May. But I think Penix, to me, is the 3rd best quarterback in this class, and in my book, he's the 3rd best quarterback off the board here. So
I have Penix closer to, like, my 5th. I've debated him as my 6th guy. Mm-hmm. He throws the deep ball probably better than anyone in this class. The out routes he's really, really good at. His biggest problem is the basics, right? The underneath throws, the quick decisions. If you look how Michigan dominated in that national championship game, they basically tempted him and said, hey, listen, we're going to play cover 4, throw it underneath us. We dare you to do it. And he wasn't able to do it, right? He wasn't able to take his hand off the trigger and not try to throw a deep bomb. So I like Penix. I think, everyone's kind of blown away by that combine speed or the pro day speed that he had. He's a good athlete. He's better than he thought, but it's one thing to be fast on the turf. It's another to actually go out and do it in the field of play. And he never really ran because, he got hurt because of it. So he's not really going to bring that to the NFL. He's not going to be able to sustain those hits. I just have questions about his accuracy, over the middle in those short routes. Like, is he going to be able to be the guy? Because you can't complete 50% of your balls in the NFL. It's just, you're not going to be a sustainable starter. So that'll be what I'm kind of curious to watch on him.
Yeah, I think if I'm Penix, I'm overjoyed that I'm in Minnesota. I think that you're coming into a spot with Justin Jefferson, no, he's not there anymore, is he? He is there. TJ Hawkins.
Still there.
Yeah,
Hawkins
I'm
still there.
losing my mind. NFC North just passing him around. But yeah, I think Penix has just got tons and tons of upside, in my opinion. I think that people are scared, yes, about the injuries, but the way that he's played has kind of sculpted how he's progressed, especially at Washington. Those injuries kind of turned him into the guy that he is now. So he was able to more so draw the game backwards and kind of make reads that way and use his legs when he really needed to. Like, I think that game against Washington State, he had one or two runs that gave him a first down in a really big spot for him. So I think that the worries about Michael Penix are obviously there. He's a little bit older, but I think you've got a bona fide decision maker who's willing to throw the ball with anticipations and can make throws. I think that he's a heck of a player, and Minnesota would be lucky to have.
Yeah. You were thinking of KJ Osborne. I could see how you get the weapons mixed up there. KJ Osborne signed in New England, so I could see you were like, I knew they were missing a big weapon. He went and signed in New England to be wide receiver one for them instead.
Yeah, Hurricane, you love it.
I have questions about Penix. Like, it always scares me when a guy's not good at the easy stuff, right? Like. Mm-hmm. It's the most fixable, right? Like, if you were like, well, you're not going to be able to teach somebody to throw the deep ball like that, I would agree with it, but I just don't know how I feel about an older quarterback who can't make the short throws. And maybe he can, and he just hasn't done it, but I'm very weary on Michael Penix. I think he's one of those guys where I just go, man, when the talent around him was good, he was really good. But when it wasn't, you know what I mean? He showed flashes in Indiana when he played there, but it just wasn't always the same.
Yeah, and the last point on that, to tack it, like, when the talent was around him, he played really well. Well, I'm putting him with the best receiver in the game. So
yeah,
it's true.
My source for Michael Penix at 11 to the Vikings is just trust me. That's what it is.
Trust me, bro.
Just
trust me, bro. Just trust me. I got a feeling about this one.
Just don't question it. Well, we're gonna move on to the Denver Broncos here. Okay, they're gonna sprint this in, and they're gonna take Jaden Daniels here. I think that's a pretty obvious one. I think, I like McCarthy in some situations a little bit better here, right? I think it's a little bit of a debate. Here's why the Jaden Daniels fit is a fit here. He's Taysom Hill. He is a more athletic version of Taysom Hill who can throw the ball a little bit better, right? So for Sean Payton, he's going to utilize him as a weapon. He's going to put him in sets that probably nobody's ever thought about putting him in. He's going to be able to do a lot of things with Jaden Daniels. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to be what he always wanted Taysom Hill to be. So I think the fit's there. And if anybody can utilize somebody with weak points and that has really strong points, Sean Payton, right? Like, he was able to take Drew Brees with a limited arm in the last couple of years and still get really good production out of him. So I think this is a good fit for him. I think he can ask him to do a lot, and Jaden Daniels will be able to handle it.
Yeah, I certainly think that's a good pick for them. He's certainly there at 12, which I think is certainly possible in the real draft. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of smoke around Jaden Daniels right now, and I'm really not buying much of it. I do know that he won the Heisman Trophy, but I don't know. I think that there's a lot weighing on him that I think there's a lot more upside with some of these other quarterbacks. I think J.J. McCarthy is certainly a better player than him, especially in that spot. I think if both of these quarterbacks are available, and Denver's got the opportunity to take one of them. I think the pick is McCarthy, especially just given the way that that Denver will try to officiate their offense. I think the explosiveness isn't necessarily going to be there. I think they want to be more methodical and push the ball down the field, and I think it kind of lends themselves to J.J. McCarthy. But I think Daniels is the complete opposite side of that. He would be able to push the ball down the field. Teams would have to respect his legs, and he would bring another level of that offense. So they would want to transition more to the athletic type of run first, pass heavy type of scheme.
McCarthy would be interesting with Peyton. I could see that marriage working, but I think if you're Peyton, right, you move on from Russell Wilson, you eat all that dead cap. You need to put a product on the field that makes people go, okay, this is why we moved on and we did that. You know what I mean? And I just worry,
ownership,
with new ownership, and I just worry McCarthy isn't going to be that guy, right? Like if I'm the GM and I'm the head coach, we're sitting there going, man, we might be fighting for our jobs this year, right? Like we've really got to put a product on the field that makes people go, oh, I could see that team beating the Chiefs, right? That offense is really special. And I don't know if I think McCarthy is capable of being a really good NFL player. I really do. I don't know if he's ever going to make you go, wow. And you can win a lot with a guy that never makes you go, wow. Tom Brady never made you go, damn, that was a good throw. Tom Brady always made plays. I love that automatic feeder. Always goes off the most inconvenient times. Tom Brady never made a play that made you go, wow. Nobody else in the NFL can make that throw. He just always did it when it mattered. And I think that's more of who McCarthy is. And I think Jaden Daniels is a guy that makes you go, wow.
Yeah. Do I sound weird at all, out of curiosity?
You're good.
You're good.
Cool. Yeah, I'm having dire charger issues over here, so I'm plugged into like another monitor, and I didn't know if it was going to mess the sound up at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not super high on Daniels again. It's the decision maker when it comes to running. So I think he has a very well respected head coach in Denver, and I think that hopefully if Sean Payton is sitting there like, hey man, you cannot just eat every 350-pound man that runs at you. You got to get out of the way every once in a while. Yeah. And as long, and it's different when Sean Payton or a very high level head coach is telling you that versus if like Matt Eberflus is telling you that, and you're like, what is Matt Eberflus knew about? This is a guy that coached Drew Brees to a Super Bowl. Like, this guy's been around the block a couple times. If he doesn't think I can take those hits, then maybe I should try to avoid some of them every once in a while. So,
alrighty.
All right, with pick 13, they're not even Oakland anymore. The Las Vegas Raiders take J.J. McCarthy. I think if the fit happens here where they get McCarthy, I think they're overjoyed. Again, like kind of like Tim said, I think I even agree with that. I think J.J. McCarthy is not going to be somebody that wows you, but I don't think he really needs to. I think that if you can build an offense that has a consistent game plan and has some sort of identity, J.J. McCarthy will run that offense excellently. It doesn't matter what it is. I think he's got the flexibility to run a pass-heavy offense. It's not something that we really seen, but, I mean, Michigan ran the ball like 50 times a game. That game against Ohio State, I hardly saw J.J. McCarthy put the ball in the air at all. They just didn't need to. And when he did, they were for touchdowns. They were just broken plays where they were going into the end zone. So there was hardly really anything to see there. But even still, the idea still applies. I mean, that's a really high level game. But J.J. McCarthy has the ability to take a so-so offense that could just be middling, but run it in a way that makes sense and is competitive in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think in an offense that Vegas is going to run, he's not going to have to do a lot, right? You've got Jacoby Myers, you've got Devontae Adams, you got Michael. Is it Michael Mayers? Is that who it is?
Michael Mayers.
Yeah.
I'm like the master of being so close on names, but not quite right. But you've got enough offense there. I mean, the running back position is the only one that scares me on that team, right? What is it? Zaire White? Is that going to be Zamir White? Again, master being 90% there.
So close.
That's the only thing that'll scare me is this isn't an offense that's going to be able to run the ball because White's a better pass catcher than he is a runner. So you're going to see he's going to be asked to throw a lot in that offense, but luckily the talent's so good. Long as he can throw a decent ball, I think he'll be fine because that's been this offense's biggest lack is like we just need somebody who's going to put the ball in the hands of like a really good wide receiver duo, and nobody can do it. So
Yeah. Yeah, again, I think and it's not the lack of run game, but like the lack of being able to lean on it consistently. Like if they still had Josh Jacobs here, I'd be like, oh boy. I mean,
Yeah, I mean
what
that's
more?
yeah.
What more could you want for the quarterback from Michigan to be able to rely on his run game that much?
No kidding.
Now, again, if Zamir White is as good as every Vegas fan has been saying all offseason, then they'll be perfectly fine. But I'm worried if he has a Damian Pierce level disappearance and they're left with nobody back there, and they signed Leonard Fournette for a playoff run.
let's have this conversation real quick. Oh,
Bring in the Syracuse guy.
AJ. Oh, yeah, I'd love that. AJ Dillon. Oh man, he's so great. He just needs a shot. Do we just got to get Aaron Jones out of there, give him a shot? Alexander Madison, man, he's better than Dalvin Cook. We just got to get rid of Dalvin Cook. Those guys are bums. Like, I'm so tired of he's the backup running back for a goddamn reason. Okay, like let's stop pretending everybody's just got the next great backup running back. It's such a bad conversation.
Yeah.
If he was good, good running backs, they split, right? Tajay Spears was good enough to split carries with Derrick Henry, right? I'm going to forget the little guy in Pittsburgh, but
Jalen Warren.
Yeah, Jalen Warren is good enough to split carries with Najee Harris, right? Like
he stole him.
Yeah, they have he just took him, right? Like good running backs get on the field. Like running back isn't a position where coaches are like, man, it's not a quarterback, right? It's not like, oh, I'm really investing in this guy. I got to see it out no matter how it goes. They don't care about running backs. They just put in whoever's going to play, right? Like just stop with the
You got your helmet on. Get out there.
Yeah, get out there. Like, my God, the Patriots will play 8 running backs. Like, we don't care. Like, I'm shocked we haven't re-signed Rex Burkhead at this point. So
where's Diddy Woodhead at?
Yeah, bring them all back. It's just absurd. Like the conversation of backup running backs is so tiring. I hate it.
Hilarious. All-time rant right there.
It's so stupid. All right. Who's next? Wait,
that'd be
You're
me,
next.
I believe.
Oh, that'd be
that's Owen.
Okay.
I almost said play my music, but pick 14, the New Orleans Saints are on the board here, and I have them going with Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. I think is one of the better tackles on the board. And with Ryan Ramchik's constant knee problems bothering him on the right side, Trevor Penning has been massively underwhelming since getting there. And the run on receivers that we've had kind of leaves the Saints with just playing it safe. You're probably building for your next quarterback at this point as well. The Derek Carr experiment hasn't gone well. I love Chris Olave, and you always need multiple receivers, but when you have a chance to get the second best tackle on the board and build for your team going forward, I think that is the right move. And again, Fashanu is a mountain of a man, and we talk about him having some flexibility to play inside, or was that somebody else you brought up? That was somebody else you brought up.
That was, yeah. I think he is he's one of the guys that I think is definitely a tackle. He might be kicked inside. I don't know. He's really, really talented at run blocking too. Like he's I don't know if I'd say underrated, but that's probably one of his bigger strong suits is his ability to run block than to pass block. But yeah, no, I don't know if I don't think he gets kicked inside. I'm pretty confident in that.
No, he didn't really play much of anything outside of tackle at Penn State. I think he's certainly a plug and play guy. Lots of physical upside with that. If you did run into injury problems, you could definitely shoot him inside, but I think that he'd translate best to tackle, especially given that his physical nature. I think that he's certainly going to be something for them. He's going to be a heck of an NFL player. I'm not sure that he's going to last this long in the real draft. I honestly am pretty high on Olu Fashanu. I think that he'll definitely go a little bit higher than this, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to actually end up right here. So,
yeah, I think we let 3 really, really talented tackles just like slide down the board. Yeah. So I don't know if he'll be available this late. If he is, that's awesome. But he's definitely got some upside. All right. Okay. All right. The Colts with their next pick. They are going to come out and they're going to get Teron Arnold out of Alabama. They need cornerback help. I thought about going offensive line. We always talk about you want your offensive line. You don't want it to be great. You don't want it to be bad. You kind of want it to be middle of the road. And it always feels like the Colts are the master of this. They're always really good at just having a mediocre offensive line with some really special pieces on it. I like Ryan Kelly, their center. Quentin Nelson's also a really solid piece for a guard, but that defense needs help. And I think Shane Steichen's more of an offensive driven guy. I'd like to see a wide receiver, but I just feel like everybody who's on the board still might be a little bit of a stretch for the Colts. And I think a big hole for them is cornerback. So,
yeah, I think this is who my corner one is in the draft. I like Terrion Arnold a lot. And when you can bring in this type of guy this late you're getting the best player at his position at we're at pick 15 now.
yeah.
So anytime that you're able to do that, no matter what the position is, unless it's safety or center in the Baltimore Ravens case, like you're feeling pretty good with yourself getting the best player at his spot at pick 15.
Yeah, for sure. Arnold is a heck of a player. I mean, playing there in the SEC, got a lot of snaps as a underclassman. Certainly a plug and play type of guy. I think the Colts would be lucky to have him. I think that it just adds to I'd say underrated room in football. I think there's certainly a lot of talent in that Colts defensive back end. So yeah, I think it's a great pick for him.
Cool. We'll just keep her rolling here. We're finally on a good pace. Woo! Let's go. Oh, I love that.
With pick 16, I'm going to have the Seattle Seahawks taking Troy Falconio. I think that it gives them a lot of flexibility with Falconio's skill set. A Washington guy, it makes sense, take the guy that's around town, especially for the fans. But it's a heck of a player. I think he has the ability to play inside, outside, and he's certainly strong in doing all of it. So it makes sense to kind of go guard tackle here for Seattle, given how much the investments they made last year in the wide receiver position. I think if you can continue to protect the quarterback and allow him to distribute the ball, I think it's good for him.
Wasn't McDaniels his coach? Not McDaniels. God, what's the Seattle's coach name? Out of Baltimore.
Mike Macdonald.
Mike Macdonald. Wasn't there an overlap between these two?
I want to say so. Let me check on that.
I think
Macdonald was only in Michigan for a year.
Yeah, I want to say
it was the year before he was with us.
Okay.
So I would assume it'd be a year, right?
I thought maybe he was his coach, but I could be just making that up in my mind. But
I don't think so.
Okay. I really like the fit too. Seattle needs help. If I thought there was value at quarterback here, I would have argued for a quarterback for Seattle because Geno Smith is just master mid. Like he had the one magical season, and then I think he's just been mediocre ever since. But like all Seattle fans will sit there and be like, "Oh, we've got our starting QB as our backup." Sam Howell's sitting as QB2. He'll probably steal snaps. I've heard that for years. When it was Drew Lock, it was Drew Lock. Now it's going to be Sam Howell. Like Seattle fans just always think their second quarterback is their best quarterback, right? When Russ was there, Geno's the starter. We got him. He's waiting in the wings. So I like the fit. I think it's good for what Seattle's trying to put together there. And a coach that's going to like to run the ball. And I think a guy like that, because I think he honestly could play center if you had to.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be one of those guys that's 3-tool on the inside. So he's going to be a really special offensive player.
No doubt about it. I'm not going to waste time there. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. So
cool.
The next pick, I got the Jaguars here at 17. This is another one where, with the board, how it's kind of fallen, I'm not sure where to go with this. I think they've spent their money on receivers, looking at corners and edge rushers here. And I think, as tempting as it is to go get like a Quinyon Mitchell or somebody on the back end of this defense, I think the pick here at 17 for Jacksonville is going to be Jared Verse, Florida State edge rusher here. Been touted as possibly the second best edge rusher in the class behind Turner for a lot of time. They just paid Josh Allen a big boatload of money. They've got Trayvon Walker, obviously, from 2 years ago in that edge rushing group. They had Arik Armstead. This is going to be a very talented front seven, and I think they're looking to just overload on it. And their secondary is in a pretty good spot right now. They could go after Mitchell and try to see if he's going to be like the number one lockdown guy. I don't know. If you're asking me if like you could take a chance and you might just have three good corners, but you also might get a lockdown in two good corners versus you got two good ones, just go make your pass rush that much better and get possibly the second, if not the third best edge rusher in the class. I take Verse out of Florida State here.
Yeah, if they're going to load up on that defensive end or on the defensive line, Jared versus just a quality pick here, especially at 17. He's a game record. That dude just makes it happen. Can pretty much do any sort of rush moves that you can think of. I mean, anything. I've seen him do it all. He's a heck of a player. Transfer from Albany to Florida State. I didn't think much of that. He was really highly rated out of the transfer portal, but didn't think much of it considering he was making a jump from Albany then to Florida State in the ACC. But I mean, he hit it in stride. I thought he was going to declare after his first year at Florida State. Decided to come back to school to build more draft stock, and I mean, he produced, and that's pretty much all he does. That's his MO, is just to produce.
Trying to remember, what is Albany's mascot? Something stupid.
The Great Danes, I think.
The Great Danes. Yeah, I knew it was a dog. I knew it was something dumb like that.
It could be something stupid.
Yeah, I knew it was dumb. I could see it in my head, and I couldn't remember what kind of dumb dog it was.
It's a true New Yorker right there, my friends.
Coming from a cat guy. Big cat guy over here. I think the Jags. I think if Troy Fatnew's here, I think they scream because they need center and guard help more than anything. I also like them as a candidate for Brian Thomas out of LSU. I think they're like losing Calvin Ridley for them. They just have to figure something out. They need to give Trevor Lawrence some kind of opportunity. So I understand with the way this draft board fell, seeing the value of getting the second best edge rusher. But I think in reality, I know we're doing this the way we would draft. I think if Mitchell is there for them, I think that's a real landing spot for him. I think they look at him and go, we just need somebody who can take the top off the defense and give Lawrence some more talent on the outside.
Yeah, I think I won't disagree with you. I think that he needs to take the step, and they're going to look for the guy that's going to get that job done. And it's just like it's honestly really surprising that I feel like we haven't seen that step from Lawrence yet. You had Ridley last year. They bring in Gabe Davis this year. They also have Devin Duvernay. Like they've I'm not going to sit here and speak like all these guys are number one wide receivers, but like they've put a lot of different guys around, different combinations, really had under 300 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. So I don't know. It's one of those 50-50 things, but yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. here would not be a Holden pick by any stretch.
All right, with pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals. Tim, that's you.
Oh, sorry. Did I not play the noise?
You did.
Oh, okay.
I'm feeding it to you, buddy.
I'm over here just like, this is just losing space here.
My sheets.
This one is a really interesting. I could see this pick going one of two ways, but I think they have to go out and get Fanaganu. I can't ever say these guys' names. Out of Oregon State. He is a little bit more of a run-centric tackle, but they just need offensive line help. Like they just need warm bodies on there that can protect sweet Joe Burrow's body with all their being, right? Like even if they just put out a concrete roadblock out there, that'd be better than a lot of what they've done. They could go. I could see them taking Newton out of Illinois here. They do need some interior help with what's his name? Is it DJ Reader? Is that who their D tackle was that they lost?
Yeah, in Cincinnati.
Yeah, with DJ Reader being gone, right? Like I could see them going out and chasing something like that, but I think they have to go offensive tackle. It's pretty straightforward. He's really good value for here. A lot of people think he's going top 10. I think his biggest problem is his strongest skill set is run blocking, and that's not what NFL teams value. So I think there's a real chance he ends up down here, but if you're the Bengals, he's a really solid talent.
Yeah, for sure. I think Fuaga's a great pick here. It may end up being somebody you have to kind of develop, like you said, Tim. I think that
Yeah.
considering that Cincinnati's going to be obviously pass first, it's going to have to kind of adapt Fuaga's skill set into something that he's not really super comfortable with. But he's certainly got the intangibles to do it and the physicality and athleticism. So I think it would make a lot of sense for them, especially given that need for tackle.
Yep, nope, don't doubt it a sec.
All right, you're going to have to give me a second. My stuff just crashed.
Nice.
Very
That's the
nice.
best.
Love it. Gotta love it.
I think the Bengals are a really strong candidate to trade up. Um, they are in desperate need of talent, um, and I could see them making a deal that includes T. Higgins to like maybe move up a couple spots. So, uh,
All right. And with that being said, we are ready for the next pick. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams are going to select Bo Nix. I think that Bo Nix has a lot of potential in this league. I think that there's a lot to be seen from Bo Nix that we haven't seen just yet. I think his offense at Oregon certainly gave him a lot of opportunities to produce a lot. Some of that may have been artificial considering how open these guys were running. That's the irony of that is not lost on me. But I think that given that McVay has committed that he decided he wasn't going to go for the TV route, that he actually is part of this rebuild, I think Bo Nix is a guy that certainly can be something that spearheads that and it could be the face of a Los Angeles franchise. I think that he's got the look. I think that he's certainly the type of player that can be, somebody that takes a step forward in the league and not a step back as it comes to college. I think that he's got a lot of upside as it comes to the NFL.
yeah, I think it's interesting. The Rams are in unfamiliar territory, right? A first round pick for them is like foreign. Like they're just like, well, we didn't trade this for somebody. Like, are we sure this was the right thing to do to like pick a young player? Um, I would like them to see take a Bo Nix, right? We joked about Tyron Smith is guaranteed to miss games. Matthew Stafford at this point has like glass bones, I'm pretty sure, and like half his bones are just like ready to fall apart at any given moment. He's a guy that's gonna miss at least 4 games every single year. Um, and Bo Nix is probably one of the more NFL ready guys. Um, the only thing I don't love about Bo Nix is he reminds me a lot of Mac Jones. We're like, wow, that guy makes really good decisions and is not special in any given way.
Now, with that being said, the caveat to that, I think, is imagine if Mac Jones had Sean McVay for 3 years. I think
It's true.
while it may not be the most earth breaking top 10 quarterback ever, that team probably is pretty good, and he's probably a pretty solid quarterback. I think the fit here is beautiful. You're taking a guy that you're taking like a Brock Purdy that again he's never going to wow you, but again in the right system with the guys around him and the perfect head coach, I think it makes all the sense for the Rams.
Like with guys like Sean Payton, with guys like McVay, with Kyle Shanahan, they don't want special quarterbacks. They will sit there and tell you they do, but like Kyle Shanahan has had like a horniness for Kirk Cousins like I've never seen before because Kirk Cousins just does what the offense tells him to do, right?
Yep.
Like Kyle Shanahan will sit there and be like, oh yeah, we took Trey Lance because we want somebody special. Trey Lance didn't work because Trey Lance is going to do what Trey Lance wants to do and not what Kyle Shanahan wants him to do, right? Like if Kyle Shanahan like his ideal quarterbacks are Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, right? And McVay is a very similar like skill set of like, well, if Bo Nix just reads my offense and I tell him this is option 1, 2, and 3, and like that's a guy who can read it really well, progress through it, and just make the play.
Yeah, he wants essentially a yes man at quarterback. Here's your 4 reads: make a decision or get sacked or throw the ball out of bounds. That's it. There's no room for interpretation. Run the offense. Done. End of list.
And I think Bo Nix is like the perfect guy for that.
It works.
So.
Yeah, it works.
I really like that pick. I'm jealous of that pick.
I've had that pick for a minute now. That's I think something. Just keep your eye on LA for Bo Nix.
I would not be surprised at all to see that.
Yeah, I thought Newton was the pick there because I was like, man, they just lost Aaron Donald. That makes so much sense. But
yeah, I thought so too. But I think if you have the opportunity to, bring your fan base some excitement, I think the NFL is very much built on, narratives like this. I think LA hasn't had a first round pick in forever. Boom, here comes Bo Nix.
And I think for like the Rams as an organization, it keeps Sean McVay there, right? Like there was all those rumors last year that McVay was going to retire, and it's like, man, if Aaron Donald's retiring this year and then Stafford comes out next year is like I'm done, like it wouldn't surprise me that Stafford joins him. So that's I like that because it would be an anchor of, something new that McVay can sink his teeth into. So,
Mhm.
all right.
All right, next pick in our mock draft would be pick 20 to my division rival Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a lot of holes on this team. Obviously, they've got some new quarterbacks plugged into town. I don't know if either of these guys is the option long term. I'm going to do something that they should have done 2 years before Big Ben retired. And they did it last year. They got Broderick Jones. I think they double down and they go J.C. Latham out of Alabama here and take a tackle at 20. There is a need at receiver. And I know Brian Thomas Jr. is sitting there and Keon Coleman, and there's some really talented guys that are sitting here on the board. But I would be a hypocrite if I sat here and did anything but pick an offensive lineman, especially when there's a talented one on the board. That has been my number one critique of why the Steelers have struggled, is because they keep trying to plug and play all their skill guys and find their quarterback and remain relevant and somewhat winning football, that they've never went through the full rebuild, and they've also not taken care of the number one thing, which is how to keep your quarterback upright. I think Kenny Pickett's been running for his life. Big Ben was on a walker at the end of his career for a reason. And to me, J.C. Latham's here. You take a tackle at 20. You use that deep receiver class to your advantage and take one in the second, and you build going from there. Again, corner would be interesting here to slap like Quinion Mitchell with Joey Porter Jr., but to me, it's got to be a tackle. You have to plan for whoever your quarterback's going to be for the next 3 years.
And
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, honestly. Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, no, you're good. The Steelers aren't going to take a wide receiver because they'll just draft some guy in the fourth round that nobody's ever heard of, and he's going to end up being traded to another team in 4 years, so they don't really give a shit. So that's all I had to say, Grant. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think J.C. Latham is honestly a great pick for them, considering that you can, like you said, kind of use him as a test for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Like if Justin Fields and Russell Wilson are okay this year, if they play one or both of them, they've got an opportunity with a fresher offensive line, and you can even use that to kind of see what if Najee Harris still has any gas left in the tank, or if you want to, keep him around. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility to grow with taking a tackle here. I may lean closer to corner, and especially if Quinion Mitchell or Cooper DeJean's there. I just think that seeing Cooper DeJean in a Steelers uniform would just make me sick. But I think if they went to go after the offensive line, especially with a guy like J.C. Latham, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think it's the right move. I don't know. I think Cooper DeJean in the NFL eyes is viewed as a safety, is everything I've read, that he's going to be viewed as a safety. And I don't know. You just don't take safety super early unless they're a difference maker, right? Like
it's Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, like Kyle Hamilton's a guy that you look at and you go, he can guard a tight end in the NFL. I don't know if I look at DeJean and I go, that's the guy I want to put on Travis Kelce, week in and week out.
Man,
that's where we're at with the positional, the draft value is like, unless you are an all pro level guy, and it's obviously very hard to tell that right out the gate. It's hard to take a safety or a center or a guard that early in the class.
Yeah. All right. All right. The Dolphins here. It's the Dolphins and it's my pick, right? Okay.
Yep,
I just had that moment of like, oh my God, is it actually my pick?
I thought it was Grant's pick. I wasn't even paying attention.
Okay. Yeah, man, boy, gosh, we're just in a tough spot here as the Dolphins. Man, I think we have to take Newton. I know it's not necessarily a huge need for us, but it's just talent-wise, he's so good. Like, I can't pass him up. He is, I say talent-wise, he is an upside guy, right? Like, he isn't somebody who blew me necessarily out of the water in college, but he's somebody that I look at and you go, yeah, he's got that skill set there where he can be a real big difference maker in the NFL. So we're gonna go ahead and snag him up while we can.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick for them, honestly. Johnny Newton replacing Christian Wilkins is pretty much just straight across the board. I mean, it's just plug and play the same guy. It may take a second for him to, become accustomed to that, the physicality of the league. I think he was getting by on bullying a lot of those Big Ten guys just from sheer power alone. But I think it's a no-brainer, especially if he's still there.
when you've got a 6'1" guy that's 300 pounds in the center, like that's just, it's not Vince Wilfork, but it's Vince Wilfork-esque,
It's pretty close.
And I think it's the perfect fit, and I think it is a need because, again, they lose Wilkinson on that defensive line. You got to replace him somehow. I think the hilarious pick here that will never happen is just deciding to actually build a track team and take Xavier Worthy at 22. But
so stupid.
Yeah, it'll never happen. I would be disgusted with Mike McDaniel if he allowed that to happen on his team because they don't need it. But yeah, I think Wharton is a great pick here.
Why don't you just recommend that Mike McDaniels just trade his 7th round pick to the Raiders for Henry Ruggs and try to petition him out of jail in Las Vegas? Like,
we all know the Raiders are taking Xavier Worthy anyways. That's fast receivers that run a 4.3. That's what they do.
I know. I was a little nervous with the Raiders pick. Who did we have him picking earlier? Yeah, McCarthy. He doesn't have much of a criminal record, so I'm not sure if he's gonna fit with that team.
It doesn't seem like it fits.
He watches film, so
he's out. Yeah, they threw him out already.
Can we get a guy with a little bit more of a suspect past, and maybe that'll do something illegal?
We need more character issues is what we need.
Yeah, that's what that pick was really missing. JJ McCarthy's not that guy, and I don't know if he's going to get along in Vegas. That's all I'm saying. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, no story to tell on draft night. It's not interesting.
Oh, I'm so jealous of Grant right now that he gets this pick.
All right, with pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to take Quinyon Mitchell. It just makes too much sense. You can never have too many DBs. I mean, they just don't have any holes. The Eagles are just loaded. They have everything. And if you're able to get a guy with that much athleticism out of Quinyon Mitchell in this spot, not having to move, it's a sheer luxury pick, but almost everything feels like a luxury pick for them. You could have even gone Brian Thomas here. I mean, anybody makes sense for them.
I think corner is one of the weaker spots, so I think this matches up perfectly. I think they would love to have any one of the corners fall to them, other than maybe DeJean here, just again because we're thinking he's probably going to play more of a safety role in the NFL. But
shit, they need a safety too. Anyone in the secondary they're going to take probably.
Yeah, they like Reed Blankenship though. I think didn't they just extend him again, or offered him another contract?
I don't know if they extended him, but I mean Blankenship didn't play terrible down the stretch, but they got. I mean Darius Slay and James Bradbury got targeted. I mean they were the reason they lost a lot of those games down the stretch last year. Their secondary just fell apart. So getting Mitchell here, they would be overjoyed to have someone like him fall into their lap.
Well, it's the Eagles, right? So somebody incredibly talented is just going to slide into right there. So that's how the Eagles roll, man. Like they sit there. They're going to be, what pick is this? This is pick 22, and they're going to get a top 5 talent at 22. That's just somehow the Eagles managed to do that, right? Like they took a top 10 quarterback in the second round. Like name another team that does that. Like if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you think Hurts is top 10 or not, I guess is up for debate, but I'd take him over a lot of guys. So
yeah, for sure. Especially when they got him.
All right. On to the next one here.
All right. I've got pick 23, and I just so happen to have the pleasure of having both of the Vikings picks in this draft. We went Michael Penix early. I'm very tempted with Brian Thomas Jr. here to just add to an already stacked receiver room. Just trying to make sure that there's not anybody sitting here that I'm going to be mad I don't take. Yeah, I think that's the pick here. I think Brian is it Brian Thomas Jr., right?
Brian Thomas Jr., yeah.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. comes in, and this becomes – I mean, we're talking about Caleb Williams having one of the best landing spots for a rookie quarterback, and if Penix or whoever it is at 11, if they stick and get a guy and then they turn around and can get Brian Thomas Jr. at 23, boy, oh boy, I get to throw to that Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones. I mean, what – I don't know what else you could want as far as an NFL starting quarterback could ask for. So I think I love it there. I think an edge trying to come in and replace a little bit more of Danielle Hunter's production is definitely not a bad way to look at this either. But I think Brian Thomas Jr. is just too explosive of an athlete to sit here for much longer at this point. Because also if he sits here, Buffalo, Baltimore, somebody is moving up to get him if he's sitting here at 23.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I would have thought is probably go defense. You know, if you've got 2 first rounders and you've got your quarterback situation solidified, I probably would have gone to the other side of the ball. Um, you know, with Byron Murphy still being out there, that would be the guy for me. You know what I mean? If I'm then that I'm thinking about. But otherwise, I don't hate the pick. I do worry a little bit about Brian Thomas and Justin Jefferson. I like some diversity. You know what I mean? This feels like a dish where it's like you order spaghetti and then they put macaroni noodles on top of it, and you're like, "This is a lot of pasta." Um, it's just you wish you had something a little bit more to this. Um, you know, I that's where I wonder, like, you know, maybe would they think more about like a Troy Franklin, maybe somebody who's going to just be a different kind of guy. But overall, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to add a different kind of skill set within that offense. I think a guy like Xavier Worthy, who's still available, which is insane, and I don't think will happen in the actual draft, just because he did run that insane 40-yard dash time, and I think people are going to bite on that. But even still, I think Brian Thomas is a heck of a player. I think even still, he's kind of cut from that same position mold that Justin Jefferson is, but I think that he's certainly capable of performing at a high level, and honestly is worth a first round pick. And if you've got 2 first round picks and this was one that you acquired, why not take a risk? You have 3 first round wide receivers for a rookie quarterback. That's exciting. That's fun to watch.
Yeah,
So I can certainly see that happening.
yeah. It would be a fun one. That is for dang sure. All right. Okay. So since I am the Cowboys GM, I am gonna do, um, you know, the wild card pick, right? Like that's just we're the Cowboys. That's how we roll, right? Uh, you would say, man, we got to be pretty desperate for offensive tackle here. You know, we probably could use some defensive help. No, 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 no. It's not shiny enough. It's not pretty enough. We're going wide receiver. If I could get this to frickin' load.
We're foregoing our pick and making Jerry Jones sell the team.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
Perfect.
And we're going to draft Troy Franklin. I think, you know, a vertical guy like him is a good fit. Is it what I would do? Absolutely not. Do I think it, you know, if I'm drinking the Cowboys juice and I'm trying to be the Cowboys GM, that's 100% probably what I do. I want the shiniest toy that Jerry Jones will be distracted long enough that he forgets to fire me and Mike McCarthy. So,
And don't be surprised he finds another all-pro interior offensive lineman here either. He's due for one of those.
Yeah.
He's
he
another
is
Travis
too.
Frederick third round. He's gonna take
Yeah.
like Cooper Beebe out of Kansas
Oh,
State, and
yeah.
he's just gonna be a Pro Bowler right out the gate. That's what he's
Yeah,
doing.
it's possible, but I think Troy Franklin is the pick for the Dallas Cowboys.
I like it.
Yeah, I certainly think that would be a great pick for him. I think CD was getting too much attention last year. It just didn't seem to work with Brandon Cooks. You know,
Yeah.
you're kind of taking a flyer on an older guy, and it just didn't seem to really pay out for him. He had some big plays in some spots, but you know,
It
it's
it
it's
got
tough to.
weirdly better later in the year. Like
Yeah,
it
it
did, it got
progressed.
better and then it like went away again. It was bizarre.
Yeah, and that's not really something that you want to have. I mean, having Brandon Cooks on your team, period, is a luxury. And if you're able to, you know, keep him and add another player like Troy Franklin, who can kind of stretch the offense a little bit more, can run those horizontal routes across the field, I think you're adding another kind of element to that offense that maybe was lacking before. It can kind of open the box up a little bit as well. Pollard had a rough season last year. We're trying to run the football. So I think this could certainly help open up a lot of opportunities for the Cowboys.
Yep, hit the nail on the head. I mean, they will diversify their offense any way they can, and Tim's on the money with the shiny pick. So
All right, with pick 25, I'm going to plunge the knife in my own heart with the pick of Cooper DeJean to the Packers. You're going to pair 2 Iowa boys in back-to-back years in the first round. I just think that he's got too much physical and athletic upside to let sit on the board for that long, especially for a team that needs safety. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a good fit.
it just makes a lot of sense. I think he's going to be able to plug and play and be a really, really special player. He's got a nose for the ball, is really, really athletic. I know you kind of made a dig at him that you don't want him to guard Travis Kelce, but I think by year 2 or 3, if Kelsey's still out there, I think DeJean's going to give him a run for his money.
The only thing that I like DeJean a lot. And if you told me, like, the only thing that scares me is they're looking at him, more as a safety, and he's a 6'1" safety. Like, he's going to be an undersized safety to try to go out and guard tight ends. Like, that's if you said, hey, we're picking him to be our slot guy, and and maybe have him play free safety and kind of let him roam, I'm totally fine with that, right? But if I'm taking a safety in the first round, I'm taking him to take out, in my division, Cole Kmet, TJ Hawkinson.
Well, in my personal opinion, Cole Kmet covers himself, but that's neither here nor there.
I love Cole Kmet, man. I don't know why you hate on him.
No separation.
No separation. No elite athleticism. No nothing. He can make a one-handed catch every once in a while if it's thrown near him. That's great for him. But I'd like to see him consistently get open and make some catches. He had a great year last year. I honestly didn't have much to say about him last year. So at this point, I'm really projecting. But even still, I'd like to see him take a step forward.
Yeah. Oh, and Sam Laporte is the other tight end in that division. Also a pretty decent pass catcher himself.
Pretty solid, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd have his work cut out for him in the division. That's for damn sure.
It is. It's a division where you take a guy like DeJean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, wide receiver talent, tight end talent, it's just across the board in that division.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the 26th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sitting here after a surprising upset win over the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. They are dealing with some offensive line issues. Baker Mayfield is back. They've got Mike Evans still in town. With Ryan Jensen retiring on the inside of the O-line and it not being a strong position for them, I think they get the best guy off the board here. Jackson Powers-Johnson out of Oregon has a lot of versatility, can play the center or either guard spot. And I think that is kind of what they're needing is a Swiss Army knife and say Cody Mao, the famous mugshot from last year's draft class with no front teeth, plays well at right guard. Cool. I could put Jackson Powers in center or left and be just perfectly fine. Grant Barton is also one that I thought about here, and it's kind of plug or play which one you think you'd want here. I think Powers just kind of translate more to a pure inside guy where Barton can stretch out and play a lot of tackle. Tampa Bay doesn't need that. I think they need a stronger interior presence, and that's why I'm going Powers out of Oregon here.
I think it's a great pick. This team has a lot of holes. It's going to be a lot of work to kind of repeat that season they had last year, so I'm okay with a pick like this.
Yeah, for sure. You're trying to refill that hole that Ryan Jensen left a couple years back. He's a perfect plug-and-play guy. He'll be a starter for a long time.
All right.
Simple.
Oh, it's me. Sorry. I'm so bad. I can't hear it, so I don't know.
The issue, I was looking off at my sheets and stuff, so I'm like, you stopped talking. I was like, oh, that's probably my signal to signal him.
So I just seem like the guy who loves defensive tackles this draft. But, the Arizona Cardinals, we got pick 27 here. This is the Houston Texans pick. We got Neighbors with our fourth overall pick. We're going to go to the other side of the ball. We're going to take Byron Murphy. He's another one of those guys. He's 6'1", 308 in the middle of the field. We need help on the interior of our defense, right? We actually had surprisingly good production on the edge last year, so we're going to try to add talent to that front seven and try to add another guy who can stop the run. So he is another guy who's just an absolute freak show, right? Like maybe didn't blow us away at Texas, but again, is just an absolute monster. And so it'll be pretty interesting to watch him play.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's going to be somebody that definitely shows up on tape a lot. With just given his size alone, I think his ability to shed blocks and just hold them when need be, if a run's coming to his side, is really important. I've seen him blow up plays in the backfield. I've seen him make tackles 5 or 10 yards down the field. He's a guy that can make plays happen and is a difference maker on the front line.
Yeah, 100%. And you're talking about a defensive head coach. Gannon's looking for a guy to kind of build around on the interior. Hopefully he can get his own type of, Aaron Donald level force in the middle of his defense. Donald leads the division. You're hoping that, hey, maybe we can plug some D tackle and get some real pressure up the middle here. So I think it makes all the sense in the world. And again, some holes to patch up in Atlanta, but or not in Atlanta, in Arizona, but that's definitely a building block for the future.
With the 28th pick, I think Buffalo is going to go receiver. There's a lot of guys that are still left on the board. They've got Lad McConkey, Roman Wilson, Xavier Worthy is still even here. I think Lad McConkey would bring certainly an interesting element to them, a guy that would be consistently handed. I think he's built in the same sort of cloth as Khalil Shakir. I think they would kind of perform that same type of role within the offense. So I'm going to take somebody fun. I'm going to take Xavier Worthy. I think it makes sense for them to get somebody who can really stretch the offense. I think bringing him out there with the absence of Stephon Diggs is going to bring a completely different element to this offense instead of, just trying to work a corner. You've got somebody who can make somebody else open. And I think Xavier Worthy is certainly a guy that can do that.
Yeah, obviously a guy who's going to step into that wide receiver room, and there's a lot of pressure. I mean, the talent is currently Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
I know I dumpstered on Dalton Kincaid earlier. I do really like Dalton Kincaid. I've kind of been sold on him, and he got better and better throughout the year. I actually think he oddly ends up leading that team in reception and targets.
I would agree.
He's probably going to play more slot, significantly more slot this year than he did last year, because they're probably going to need to have him and Dawson Knox. Is that what it is? Yeah, Dawson Knox on the field at the same time. But I like adding a deep element because Kincaid, that man runs like he's got bricks on his feet. So,
Yeah. I would love to see like the explosion of a Keon Coleman here too, and I
thought about that.
Coming around to my pick, I'll explain a little bit more why I wish Worthy was there. But yeah, I don't doubt the pick at all. Like hey, my quarterback can throw it 80 yards through the air. Well, why don't you go get a guy that can get down there faster than everybody else can in the class?
Yeah, it makes sense.
About as simple math as you can get.
It would be really interesting to see, like, it could almost be a Tyreek Hill-esque move with Josh Allen, right? Like, he just has the ability to hurl the ball and just throw it up there and let him get underneath it. Like, I like that threat. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pick 29. I have the Detroit Lions here. I really wish Xavier Worthy would have sat here. I think that adding to Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown would have been a dangerous thing to do. Now, the Lions could go a lot of different ways here, and I'm really, really want to take Keon Coleman and put him here because I think they're still looking for, as much as they have Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown's been great. Like Jameson Williams has been kind of underachieving from what everybody thought. Definitely from what I thought he was going to be when he got there. And they could go a receiver here, but honestly, I think they like what they saw out of the defense last year. They want to get better on that side of the ball. I'm going Chop Robinson out of Penn State here.
Oh, that's exactly what I would have done.
Yeah, again, I almost flew open there and took a receiver because I really think that it would be a lot of fun. But when you have the ability to add a very talented edge rusher and just a raw guy across from Aiden Hutchinson, I think that's what – because there's not been going to be any double teams flying to Chop Robinson. Like the attention is elsewhere, right? So you're able to come in and play free and loose on the other side across from and it's another freak athlete for this defense, right? You take Jack Campbell last year, you're adding another speed freak in Chop Robinson to get after the quarterback now. This is a team full of athletes. I wouldn't be surprised to see him just double down on the Jack Campbell pick, go like Peyton Wilson for no reason at all.
Man.
Just attack. They're like, we like guys that all get 150 tackles. We're going to go get Peyton Wilson. But yeah, Chop Robinson.
Tackles from two guys. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Chop Robinson just makes all the sense in the world. You add across from Aiden Hutchinson.
Chop is such a weird player because his best game came against Michigan, which is just wild to say out loud. Like the best offensive line in college football is when he had his best game. He gave that defense hell. And that's honestly why they didn't throw the ball in the first half. I don't think they threw the ball at all in that first half against Penn State. It was all because Chop. I think they may have thrown it like twice and they were like, nah, we're done. Chop's all over JJ. I really like him. I just don't know if he's that guy that, again, he's that Javion Clowney mold of like, man, when he's on, he's really, really on.
Yeah, Penn State edge rushers unfortunately have this, at least the ones of recent memory, have this very high upside, but have not produced to the next level. And two of them play in Baltimore right now, with
Yeah.
Owe and Ajabo both kind of struggling to find footing. Hopefully, Robinson's not the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baltimore try to take him and just add a third one for the hell of it if he lasts to 30. But he's a freak of nature.
Well,
Yeah.
in the part that I like is, again, you have Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to be the guy that every year is going to have 12 sacks, right? Like Aiden Hutchinson will never lead, like he'll probably never lead the league in sacks. I don't ever think he will, but he'll never be under 10 sacks. Like he's just that guy that you throw out there. You're like, go get me 12. Just do it, buddy. You know, give me 12 solid sacks and we'll call it a day. And I like those kind of guys a lot. I think they have more value than a lot of people want to give them credit for. So next to him, because Aiden Hutchinson's going to get all the attention, and Chop is just going to be, to me, this is a lot like, hey, we've got JJ Watt, we're going to go get a Javion Clowney. It can kind of be that 1-2 punch of, we've already got the consistent guy, let's go get the explosive guy.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, where am I here? All righty. It wouldn't be a red zone talk if we didn't have a couple technical difficulties. We made it an hour 50 without one, and that's truly impressive for us. So
Might be a record.
yeah, that might be the farthest. We've had to restart shows like 6 times in like 20 minutes. So I'll take an hour 50 without one. But to wrap up kind of where we were, Keelan Coleman, thumbs up. Everybody likes him, freak talent. We're going to just jump right into the 31st pick with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of offensive tackles on the board here, right? You could certainly take Nate Wiggins. I personally think that he's a little bit undersized for what they want to do there. I guess at 6'2", he's not really undersized, but I just don't think that he plays mentality. So I would like to opt for Amarius Mims here in this spot. I think that at 6'7", Amarius Mims, given his athletic upside at that big of a size, I think brings a lot to play with for San Francisco, considering that they've got Christian McCaffrey there and trying to protect Brock Purdy as he makes his 1 to 2 reads per game. So I'm taking Amarius Mims here.
I like that pick too because a year of him playing right tackle and learning from Trent Williams is like the best case scenario for a guy like him. Definitely a freak, definitely has the size. It's just, what does he need to take it to that next level? And I think a year with Trent Williams is going to be a difference maker for him.
I agree. I think it is a dangerous combination as far as student teacher goes there.
All right. With the 32nd pick, the Kansas City Chiefs. I love it.
Isn't it nice that you can hear it when you don't have a pick to listen for?
I know. Now I don't have it, and I need, like, when I finally can hear it, I don't have the cues anymore. It's like solid. Yeah. That's super
awesome.
Nice.
Glad that happened after my last pick.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have the great delight of taking the Kansas City Chiefs pick here and getting as freaky as I want to at pick 32. Not going to take a pass-catching running back at LSU because that would just be dumb. I think the need is receiver here. Rashee Rice getting popped has put a massive wrinkle in their draft plans because they kind of had some freedom to do what they kind of wanted here. The kind of the Eagles situation of taking whatever the hell you wanted to with having Rice in Hollywood next year. That's not the case anymore. The receivers have been ran on, though. That's my only concern. But, I'm just going to take it as destiny that the big board app I'm using actually hasn't projected to go here. I'm going to take Ladd McConkey here at 32 to the Kansas City Chiefs. I like McConkey a lot as far as just – I like route runners, right? Guys that can get separation without needing speed, without needing a 6'4" frame, that can just get there with the skill of their feet. And I think Ladd McConkey kind of fits that build, can give Patrick Mahomes a rhythm and timing option in those short yardage situations. He's got his freelancer with Travis. He can go over the top with Hollywood. You give him your rhythm and timing on a 3rd and 6. I need a 7-yard out route. And I think Ladd McConkey fills the role. Gives them a receiver. Again, they could wait, but with how many receivers have went, who knows who's going to be sitting when their second round pick comes back around. So
Yeah, I would rather them go corner here. Like if you're gonna sit in your riches, like I'd rather for them go after a corner. Wide receivers are gonna want to play in Kansas City, right? Like if there is a Marquise Brown next year or anybody with any talent, like they're gonna look at Kansas City and say, "Hey, this is a chance for me to get a ring and play in a really great offense." Um, and I think what won them the Super Bowl this year was that defense, right? And you trade who'd they trade? Did they trade
L'Jarius
Sneed.
L'Jarius Sneed? Right. So you lose Sneed, who was really, really special for you, and you've got two talented, corners sitting there. You've got Nate Wiggins and you've got Kool-Aid McKenzie still, right? And I think if Kool-Aid McKenzie's still there at 32, I think the Chiefs sprint to the podium with that name in their hand.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Kool-Aid go at 30 to Baltimore either. That's been a very
Yeah.
talked about pick in Baltimore. We have a famous history with Alabama corners, Marlon Humphrey being one of them. So that, I mean, it might go there. The thing that I think they're also going to look at is their most consistent years offensively were when Tyreek Hill was on a rookie contract. And I think they're going to want to get a guy that's cheap for 5 years because
Yeah.
like you said, any receiver that plays there in Hollywood's on a 1 year deal. They're going to have to turn around and fork over the 20 to 30 that they didn't want to pay Tyreek in the long run anyways. I think you get yourself a young reset and a cheap receiver. Why not?
Sure.
Why not have to turn around and pay the guy Patrick Mahomes throw the ball to $30 million?
Yeah, and to kind of counterpoint you, Tim, they got L'Jarius Sneed in the 4th round and started rookies at corner all of 2 years ago. Like they started the year with rookie corners. So I think that Kansas City's confident that they can find those toolsy guys that they can put into the scheme on the back end at the corner position. And if you want to go receiver, especially with Lad McConkey, dude that's just a technician who's going to be open running whatever route you ask him to be, he's going to be Julian Edelman. He's just going to be there when you need it. And I think that that's exactly what Kansas City's been missing for the longest time. It's not Travis Kelce. Obviously, Travis Kelce's going to get his, but if they can have another guy like that at receiver who can get a little bit more bend and has a little bit more speed, I think that's exactly what they're looking for.
And I think it's a good plan to have a replacement for Kelce, right? Because you're going to need that safety net for Mahomes when Kelce retires here probably in a couple of years. I can't imagine he makes it more than that, but you never know. But I don't know if I always want to bank on, hey, we're going to draft 2 starting quarterbacks or cornerbacks in the middle rounds and hopefully they hit. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know if that's always the recipe for success. And they don't necessarily have a history. It's not like the Steelers where it's like, hey, every 3 years, they're just going to find a wide receiver in round 4, right? Whether it's Claypool, Deontay Johnson, right? They just don't take these guys in the first round. Until that's kind of established, I don't know if I love just, running that back.
Yeah. Like, I think McDuffie can come in and honestly fill the role that L'Jarius had pretty well. Now, replacing what McDuffie did in the slot and how uber important he was, like, Brian Branch, Kyle Hamilton, and Trent McDuffie have emerged this new position in that slot corner safety roaming type that if Cooper DeJean can play that at a high level, the issue is you have to be a great tackler, and Spagnuolo just blitzed McDuffie last year. So I think they'd have to turn around and replace him, which is, you might be able to find that gadget guy, right, and rely on McDuffie to be the lockdown guy on the outside. It's a risky thing, but again, I think they want to invest in the offense. That's what Veach has shown that he wants to do, and we'll see. I think 32 is a very interesting spot in this class as well because we can all agree that I think there's more than 32 guys that are worth first-round grade this year. So the Chiefs could do whatever the hell they wanted to come the end of this thing.
I agree. All right. Well, if you've survived 2 hours of this, we greatly appreciate you. And Grant, thanks for carving out 2 hours of your, what's today, the 11th, so it's a Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for carving out 2 hours of your Thursday and spending it with us and talking some ball.
Anytime to talk ball and call myself the resident college football expert, man, I'm in.
Easy contract sign right there.
Easy.
Hey, that's that Eagle pride never dies, baby.
Never. It'll never die.
We will. If you are a Bishop Carroll graduate, you're always welcome on this show.
Drop a comment on the YouTube video if you're a Bishop Carroll.
If you know we're Bishop Carroll High School, put it in the comments. That's fantastic.
All right. Anybody got anything else for these people?
No,
I think
sir.
that's about going to do it. So we will see you guys around for draft grades, first round grades, probably something along those lines once we get past the first round of the draft. And then hopefully by then we'll have some conversations about what the plan is for all of our predictions and such setting up for next year. Obviously, that's still a little ways down the road, but we'll get to all that jazz. So until the first round grades episode, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you then.